will continue with this scientific advisory groups meeting that we have already started to talk about in the previous session. And we will first show you a video that we have done on these scientific advisory groups, which is available on our website. And then my colleague Francesco Pignatti will explain to you what it is about and how you can be involved. Nathalie will present you an overview of what has been done in the scientific advisory groups, and then we will open the discussion with feedback from the patient, and we have Christine Dehn who will explain to us what is her experience, and we have other patients in the room who can also share their experience. So, Nicola, if you are ready with the video, yeah, please.
Today, more and more patients are involved with the authorities who regulate medicines, and here at the European Medicine Agency, we welcome and encourage this kind of involvement. This video is intended to provide information for patient representatives who have been invited to participate in one of our scientific advisory group meetings, or SAG for short.
When I got asked to come to this meeting, I was quite interested because I suppose most people as well, I didn't think about what happens behind the scenes of the process of approving a medicine for the general public to use. So I was intrigued to find out a little bit more about it.
A SAG meeting is convened to discuss issues related to a particular medicine for which a patient's valuable input can enhance and complement the overall information and discussions. But firstly, to begin, let us explain a little bit more about who is the European Medicine Agency and what is our role. The EMA is the European body based in London which evaluates human and veterinary medicines for use throughout Europe. Our core task is to evaluate applications from pharmaceutical companies who are applying for a license to sell a new medicine. Together with experts from across Europe, the EMA assesses whether the medicines are safe and effective enough for use. Based on the EMA's recommendations, the European Commission then may grant an authorization which would be valid throughout all EU member states. Once authorized, the EMA monitors these medicines to ensure they remain safe over time and once they are being used. The work at the EMA is carried out by scientific committees who are assisted by a network of European experts and by the EMA Secretariat. This work is complemented by the valuable real-life input that we receive from patient representatives.
The patients have been involved in the work of the agency since the agency started in 1995. And they have progressively been involved as member of committees, member of the management board, and then we have further developed the interaction by involving them in the evaluation.
Patients get involved in a wide range of EMA activities. For example, discussions on the medicines that are being evaluated, reviewing the packaged leaflets that go with the medicines and any other safety communications. They provide input on the advice given to companies when they develop the medicines. They participate in many of the conferences and workshops that the agency organises, and they also participate in the scientific advisory group meetings.
At the end of the day, though, the treatment is intended for people, and we need to know how that treatment is going to affect people, but we also need someone with fresh eyes to come along and tell us what it's like to be a person who's receiving treatment.
Before describing what is a SAG, it's important to understand what is the CHMP. This is our scientific committee, and it formulates the recommendations on the benefits and risks of particular medicines. The CHMP meets once a month at the EMA offices and includes representation from every EU member state. And it is the CHMP who convenes a SAG meeting whenever necessary.
We consult SAGs during the evaluation of what we call a marketing authorization, basically companies who want their product to be on the market need to have this product approved. They need to conduct studies and submit the studies to the agency. The assessment is done by our scientific committee, but there are times where the committee during the assessment encounters specific questions which are probably better answered by clinicians which are specialized in the field, and this is clinicians or patients indeed who are experts in the field, and this is indeed where the scientific advisory groups come in.
A SAG meeting is generally a half-day meeting and will include the core members of the group, additional invited experts, including the patient representatives, EMA staff, and also representatives from the company who has developed the medicine. All the SAG meetings follow the same structure.
First, our scientific committee members explain the questions, then the company explains their point of view on the questions, and then only the SAG is left to discuss without the company the answers which are given back to the scientific committee. And then the meeting ends with an agreement on the written answers.
A patient representative is asked to join the meeting so that they can provide their views and experience from a real-life perspective. The patient is not expected to give any scientific input, but rather to enrich the SAG by providing their valuable insights.
The experience of being in a SAG meeting is that it's very different. On the part of the meeting, you are in the beginning, it's all very technical, and you have to be depending on the knowledge of the other people. Of course, you are not always on the same level when it comes to the details. But when it comes to discussions about benefits and risk, what are patients wanting to accept? If it comes to the general picture, is there a need for this medicine on the market, etc., then it's very important for patients to be there to give their view.
It has been shown in many studies, in many diseases, that patients can have a very different perception of the value of certain effects or the importance of certain side effects. And so there is a unique perspective that the patient can bring to this meeting.
Being in the meeting was different to how I imagined it. It was a lot more informal. I imagined it to be quite formal, but it was actually, everybody was really friendly, and you could ask questions whenever you felt you needed something clarified.
Patient representatives are usually contacted via a wide network of European patient organisations, and usually at each meeting at least 2 patients are invited. Once a patient has agreed to participate, they are sent forms to complete, and once this is done, they will then receive an official invitation together with travel booking options. This is so that the agency can organise everything for them.
Well, agency did more than travel. The agency did booking for me, flight and hotel. Anyway, no objection. Excellent job.
Background information on the issues for discussion is also sent out in advance to allow the patients to prepare for the meeting. This information, as well as the discussions during the meeting, are confidential, and this is until an outcome has been published on our website. An EMA staff member is also always available to answer any questions they may have.
EMA gave me a lot of background and a lot of time to study the background, so I came here full prepared.
As you have seen, it is very important for the agency to include a patient perspective in its work, and we fully appreciate their input.
I'd definitely be interested if I was asked again to come back to another meeting. It's good to see the background. You sort of forget that sort of thing happens. So I would be definitely interested. It's an interesting process to be part of. And
The point of view of the patient, their real life experience, this is why they are here. And they shouldn't feel shy about that.
It's a relatively small meeting, 10-15 experts, and there will be time to introduce yourself, the time to ask clarifications if you need. So it's a setting where I think you will feel very quickly that you know everybody around the table.
Identify the issues that you think really matter to you and to other people, for example, with the condition that's being discussed, and then speak out.
Well, try not to drink too much coffee and you'll be relaxed at the meeting.
All right, so you have it on our website if you want to have a look at it again. So now I will give the floor to Francesco to go a little bit more into the technicalities of the scientific advisory groups.
Yeah, just to continue on from this video, I was actually looking at it yesterday, fine-tuning my presentation and didn't want to overlap too much. And I was struck by this very calm voice of Nathalie explaining to us how this smooth, relaxed process of a scientific advisory group. We're kind of giving a rosy picture here because things are often much more hectic. So be prepared out of nowhere to receive an email from either Nathalie or myself or another SAG secretary saying, in 3 weeks' time, we have a meeting. We can't tell you anything about it until now because you've never been an expert with us so far. But we need to go through this paperwork and you'll receive pages of forms to fill in, cryptic in the beginning, and then if you're lucky, then we will send you an invitation and you will have maybe 1 or 2 weeks to go through the presentation. And you have to a little bit have an act of faith then that this is actually something that you can do and that it's going to be interesting for you to do. Because in the beginning, until we have your confidentiality declaration and we know that your conflict of interest is fine and all that, we can't really share very much with you. So my message would be, whenever you do receive this email, bear with us, be generous as usual with your time and effort that you dedicate to us. But at the end, what you will have, I hope, is a very interesting meeting where you will have the feeling of being able to contribute. What are the typical issues that are discussed at the scientific advisory groups? I have the experience only from the oncology advisory group. It's also the advisory group that has met most frequently than any other group. You know, in oncology, we talk a lot about endpoints and can we use different endpoints and overall survival? Yes, but then what is the value of those endpoints and how do you balance against the toxicity? So typical advisory group questions. So normally patients have felt very comfortable in participating in those discussions. And actually, if you think of it now, 85% of all of our SAGs include patients. And this is a gigantic step forward because up until a few years ago, the CHMP was the only committee which did not have any patient participation. And now, okay, it's only through the SAG, but it's a very big step forward. And what was the anxiety at the time? We actually, I remember, came out with a paper where we were saying, okay, from now on, 3-4 years ago, from now on, we're going to put systematically patients in the scientific advisory group. And everybody had this anxiety that, no, the discussions are too technical, and anyway, what is the contribution of the patients going to be? What is the impact going to be? It will just frustrate people. We sit around for a day not understanding anything, and then if they say something, this will not have an impact. Is that correct? Is that so? We ran a survey, Nathalie and her colleagues ran a survey in 2011 to look precisely at this question. And the first question was, are patients able to follow the discussion? And we asked this to a number of patients who had been in the SAG, and the overwhelming majority were either totally positive on this, totally agreeing that they had no issues of language or technical understanding and so on. Remember the questions that we are discussing typically. It's issues of how much do you weigh a certain side effects compared to a certain effect. So these are not highly technical questions. And if there are technical issues, then you can always ask and you can always contact us before. You have the time to familiarize yourself with the material. It's often just 2-3 pages of briefing note that you're asked to read before the meeting. So that's definitely not true, that discussions are too technical. The other question, are my views taken into account? Again, the majority said that their comments were considered helpful and valuable, and had a feeling that that their comments were taken into account. So the two fears that had been looming around about patient participation, I think, are completely not existing if we ask the patients. Let's now ask the CHMP, the scientific committee, what do they think of the advice that they receive from the patients? Well, chairpersons and rapporteurs said that their overall impression was that the patient contribution was variable and depends on the style of questions addressed during the SAG and on the individual patients who attended. Well, this is not a negative thing. This actually applies to any expert that comes to this meeting. There are a number, you have been in meetings before, you know, the type that absolutely needs to make an intervention in the first 10 minutes of the meeting and then dominates the rest of the discussion. And there are those who make one, maybe very short contribution at the end, which can be just as critical. I have been in meetings where I was perfectly comfortable with what was being said, but didn't have particularly a reason for having to open my mouth myself. I agreed with everything. That's not a negative thing. It applies to everybody. So actually, this is exactly how we expect patients to contribute, variably, depending on the title, depending on the topic, and depending on the personality of the individuals. So nobody's expected to be constantly talking. On the contrary, we're trying to keep these meetings very efficient. And on the whole, they did say that there was an actual impact on the outcome in many cases, and in others not. Again, it's not that patients should always revolutionize what is being said. We would be getting it always completely wrong. We try always to put ourselves in place of the patients, but the patients there are a kind of reality check. So if we get it right, there is no need why patients would completely overturn the thing. And lastly, they concluded that they were always very well integrated in the dynamic of the SAG, so there was no issue of patients feeling that they were being left out and so on. So in conclusion, I think this has been, I keep not managing well this amount. In conclusion, this has been a very big step forward, not patients yet sitting in the scientific committee, that is not there yet, but it's at least one channel through which your views can be interpreted, and through the success of your contribution, actually, this has become a more permanent and more frequent contribution. And actually, in the oncology SAG, we want to create a more permanent presence so that we don't invite always a different patient depending on the disease, but there could be somebody who acts more as a stable representative and gets more learning and more familiar with the general topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francesco. So now I propose that we move to the overview that Nathalie will give us, just to give you some ideas of the statistics and the area in which we had most of the SAGs. If we can have the slides.
So patients are systematically invited to all the SAG meetings when we can find patients that are available. And as I said, here's some statistics for this year, and also give some comparison compared to the previous year. So here you can see back in 2011 we had 22 participants. Last year was 36, and this year so far is 33. Obviously, these are the figures to date. There may be another couple before the end of the year. And also we thought it might be interesting just to show you some of the different therapeutic areas where we have included patients in the SAG meetings. So I think it's interesting. You can see there is a very wide range of areas where we have been able to include the patients.
Thank you, Nathalie. And we have asked one of our patient representatives to give you some ideas about her experience. So, Christine, would you like to share with us your experience?
Yes, thank you. I think Martina already said a lot of this or concerning the SAG meetings, but I would like to say something slightly negative, because one negative thing I experienced with these meetings here was myself, because I was so nervous at the beginning. I thought that I would never make it behind all these forms and the documents and everything, but I experienced something very positive, and it was that I could call the EMA all the time, and I got answered all my questions immediately, and I felt really like falling down, and they hold me, you know, and then I relax and I could really take place in these meetings. And everything, as you already said, was very perfectly organized. And I think I was participating in one of the first SAG meetings. So when I entered the room, I was me, the patient representative, and about 10 people from the company, and then experts and the chair. And I really felt intimidated. So at the beginning, but then I realized that the chair especially was very keen on involving me in all the discussions, and that I could clarify all my questions, and that I could comment on everything. So after that meeting, I really felt that maybe I could have made my point, and that maybe they took it into consideration what I said. So the experience was throughout all positive. And what I really would like to say to you, as possible future experts in the scientific, in the SAG meetings, is that you should not really be afraid of participating, because it sounds so huge and professional, and it is of course professional, but it's not difficult to participate and to make your opinion. So that's basically what I want to say, and I'm very looking much forward for another SAG meeting. So that's it.
Thank you very much for these positive words.